Okay, we're out here in Vermont again for what feels like the millionth time this year, but that's fantastic news. We're actually going to climb up the back of Mount Mansfield today, tallest peak in Vermont. I would have at some point prior to editing this video, put up a video from the other side much earlier in the year. Where there's a ton of interesting stuff blooming, including a pinguicula that, while globally being kind of unremarkable, is extremely rare on the northeast corner of North America. But today, or I should say right now, what you're looking at there is some of the fall stuff we got going on. In fact, it's pretty much fall, especially this far north and this high up, probably about 2,000 feet elevation right now, and seen some interesting stuff. But I figured I'd pull over real quick and just start with this guy, because I always love talking about this plant, and I don't think I really did any alpine stuff last year. Not that this is exclusively alpine. This is Saudago macrophylla. This is the large-leaved goldenrod, or I guess one of the goldenrods called large-leaved goldenrod. Believe it or not, this one's in better condition. The ones I saw a bit further down, I don't recall these having anything particularly remarkable. Their filarias. Oh, okay. AutoZoom almost did me a semblance of a favor there. It's going to be exceptionally difficult. It gets stuck in like one weird direction. I don't know how to explain it. Oh, I see what happened there. In any case, it zooms all the way out. There's the capitula right there. Of course, you see it zooms out all the way, and it can't zoom itself back in. It gets off the track. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. In any case, you get the idea. What a terrible way to start a video. But yeah, there's the capitula. Thing is basically done. It's also quite damp up here, which usually results in these, kind of going to hell. So anyway, that's one. We've seen some interesting stuff that we'll get to look at probably on the way out, because between here and the alpine zone, there's probably not going to be much other than some beautiful scenery. Lots of calcareous rock around here. Similar type of vibe to the White Mountains. You get your viburnum lanthanoides, you have your red spruce and your firs, betula, cordifolia, mountain birches, but very different substrate here, and lends itself to a couple of unique species that maybe we'll get to see on the way out or whatnot. So that's my funny way of saying, we'll see what happens. So I gotta start torturing people more with the Graminoids, because I've recently made several acquaintances that got really into these, and this actually, you want to talk about rare stuff that you would have basically anybody willing to share with you, anybody even remotely interested. Talk to the Graminoid people. There's a lot of really rare ones. A lot of them are indicator species. A lot of them are weird disjuncts, and just in general poorly studied. So I pulled up on this guy here, thinking for a second maybe it was a grass or a sedge, but this is actually in the rush family, Juncaceae. This is a species of Luzula, which, Juncus and Luzula, I think, are the only two real genuses of rush you get in New England. These are colloquially known as wood rushes. Juncus are typically, emergent wetland plants, whereas Luzula, they're more woodland plants. So this one, if I'm not mistaken, based on what I just looked at in my key, this could be Luzula parviflora, the small flowered wood rush. And I can't really get into the terminology on rushes. I know some of the sedge terminology. Sedges are really cool. They're probably the best, and I'm learning my grasses, but those would be your little fruits there, well past flower now, and then nothing. But down at the base you have this nice little, not even really rosette, could you call that? More just like sheathing little set of basal leaves there. And then you just follow one colline leaf coming up. Rushes are round. Sedges have edges, grasses have knees, right down to the ground. This does not have flat stem like a rush, or like a sedge, I should say, whatever. And next to it, I forget I actually forget the species name, but one of the few I remember the common name. This is one of the beech ferns. I got a picture of it further back. I'll put down below what it is. Nice story on the back there. Lots of cool ferns in this neck of the woods. I'm just, these are not the particular ones I'd be looking for. Anyway, we're gonna carry on. I didn't even bother to explain what makes this interesting, so I'll put up the little distribution map. You get these all throughout the Intermountain West, up in the Arctic, high elevation, and Arctic areas around the northern hemisphere. But here in New England, basically just dips down into the higher elevations of northern New England. You looked like there was a few observations down in Massachusetts and the Berkshires too. So certainly not common in this neck of the woods, but probably, like many graminoids, not really something people are looking out for. Yeah. Again, that's the thing about these. They get around pretty well, but there's so many goddamn species of Graminoid. I mean, Carex alone is the most speciose genus and family, I think, in New England. One of the most speciose genuses in the world, right up there with Poaceae, the grass family. Of course, this is neither a sedge nor a grass, but it's still closely related, and it's still employing many of the same gimmicks. So hopefully this is Luzula parviflora, and I'm not, wasting my time and the time of others here. Yeah, these beautiful little mushrooms caught my eye. This is Ploracibella porogens. Angel's wings is what they give to the common name. I mean, they're very beautiful. These are saprotrophs. They like eating conifer wood, which indeed, we're up here. You get a Picea mariana right here in front of me. Lots of balsam fir too. Abies balsam, probably black spruce as well. I can never really get it down. This is definitely a spruce, so you can see it's got those little pegs. All right, that's how you can always tell a spruce from a fir. That and the bark is generally going to look a little bit different on the mature specimens, but this guy's a little guy, and it's kind of spiky and kind of unfriendly. I would say generally firs are a little bit more lush, water loving. Although black spruce can be plenty water loving too. Again, lovely little saprotrophs just decaying, eating the conifer fungus. Look at the gills in the bottom of that. Beautiful mushroom. Trying to get more. I'm trying to photograph more mushrooms, trying to photograph more graminoids, because you can really prolong your botanical season by getting into both those things. Anyway, let's keep going. There you go. This is a decent view. Probably about 3,000 feet in elevation now. Might as well show you, because I haven't. I can't remember the last time I would have even talked about these. Yeah, here's a fir. I think the last scene should have been a spruce. Here's what a fir looks like up close. You notice how there's no pegs there? No pegs. And the individual needles make these little suction cups all along the branch, okay? That's a fir. Abies balsamea. Real nice. They can get bigger. Like here's a larger one behind me. Same thing. The bigger ones tend to get a little bit scragglier. But I mean, this is friendly to the touch. This feels nice. It smells delightful too. And then these are some of the leaves on Betula cordifolia. One of the last true hardwood trees you'll still get. I consider this to be up in the subalpine right now. Looking west across the beautiful, lovely Republic of Vermont. Yeah, you get the Betula cordifolia. You get that too over there if you can make that out. That's Sorbus americana, I believe. That's a mountain ash. No relation to ashes. Rather, it's a cool member of the rose family. I think that might even be an amygdaloid. Of course, white woody roses that make stony fleshy fruits. Probably going to be an amygdaloid. Even Spirea is an amygdaloid. Looking up over there, if you can make those out. Those are the cones on Abies balsamea. None on this guy in front of me, but it's got the cool, highly resinous upside down cones, which I always love to see. I just find that real interesting. Firs generally have the upside down cones, and then pines, spruces, pines generally have the right side upper. I guess those would technically be upside down, but you get the idea. Larix, the larches, do the upside down cone thing too. Like that. That can be a useful shortcut when looking at pines, especially if you're new to them. You don't want to get into the nuances of the terminology and really, get up in there and give the thing a colonoscopy. Just look at the cones. Cones are like flowers. They're analogous to flowers. They're not flowers, but just like flowers are the reproductive structures of plants, of angiosperms, which we would generally use as diagnostic information for an angiosperm. Cones can be useful for conifers, So just to get a point across, you can see this looks quite different from the granite schist gneiss you would expect to see. Well, mostly granite. Over in the White Mountains, okay? I'm real tired of having to explain this to people. The Green Mountains here where we are a true, portion of the Appalachian belt. Look up there. Isn't that nice? So this is, I think right just about 400 400 million year old rock in here. This is all sedimentary. Well, metamorphous sedimentary. You can see, you know, how foliated and bent it is. This is layers of sediment that were cooked, contorted, and pushed back up to the surface, usually in a subsequent orogeny. So what you have functionally is, you know, a basin which accumulates sediment. That sediment becomes lithified over time, and then when you get one of the various, but 3 of them, Appalachian orogenies, which are mountain building events, it gets thrust up, further contorted, and then you get stuff like this. Now, in the White Mountains, you get granite plutons, which are chunks of magma that have cooled under the earth and then been pushed up. The White Mountains were formed by hotspot volcanism, much younger, much more, that's why they're so much, you know, for lack of a better term, pointy, tall. They haven't been exposed for nearly as long as some of the stuff, you know, in the Green Mountains, in the, like down there, the Black Mountains, as you get south through Appalachia, that is, you know, typically metasedimentary rock. And I'm tired of explaining the difference. The White Mountains are substantially younger than the other, at least in terms of uplift. In fact, they're volcanic in origin, so the age of the rock is not that much older than the age of the uplift. If I'm butchering some of this, I apologize. But, you know, one is Jurassic in origin. This is like Devonian in origin. So this is, you know, much more calcareous. It's still been metamorphosed. You can see there's some mineral grains in there, and it's obvious, again, by the foliation here. But I always like to point that out. And this stuff, you know, you spend some time along the Connecticut River, certain parts of New Hampshire, you do get this. This is like shale. In fact, I think this is shale. And I mean, I don't really need to hammer the point home, but you get a nice thin sheet of it. It'll crumble right in your hands. Very different chemistry, but you know, similar forest makeup, because this isn't really this isn't really the exposed bedrock. This is just stuff that's exfoliated out of it. Real interesting geology in Smuggler's Notch. Not much like it elsewhere in New England, at least not to this extent and preserved this well. So geology informs what goes on the surface. That is something you cannot basically afford to miss out on. So we'll continue on. Yeah, welcome to the alpine zone, kid. This is the alpine zone. Vegetation is all crumholz now. There's the fir with the actual cones on the thing. I don't want to fall off that little ledge. It's not that far, but still would hurt. There you go. You see how resinous those are? You can smell them from here. They smell goddamn delightful. Those will actually break down and basically fall apart over the winter. And you get a new generation of firs. These are pretty short-lived, fast-growing trees. Of course, this is Apis balsamea. This is the common Christmas tree. Don't let the fact that these stay shrimpy for many decades fool you. If grown in, I guess, ideal conditions, although these are ideal conditions for a fir at the end of the day, these can get about, a respectable height, maybe 10, 15 feet tall, enough to put in your living room, I guess. I mean, I'm not, for whatever reason, just never really found it that obnoxious. Most Christmas trees are farmed, you know what I mean? They're farmed. They sequester some decent amount of carbon, and it's like, there's only so many places in the world they grow these. I guess they use jack pine in the Midwest, other species of tree elsewhere, but here in New England, you stick with your good old Apis balsamea. But I mean, these can get to a good size in like 6 or 7 years. And again, up here, never going to get much bigger than this, but the life cycle, obviously, I mean, not obviously, you probably don't know. If you can't tell from the mist and the fact that everything is constantly dripping with moisture for half of the year and then frozen for the other half of the year, fire is not really a big aspect of this. Rather, these get basically, as you can see, some of them, they call them flag trees over there, stripped of vegetation in the direction of the prevailing wind, get defoliated when they get tall enough. You stand too tall, you get cut down. You should have learned that in elementary school. They get stripped of vegetation, they die, and the new ones come up from the floor down there. It's called a fir fall. If it was clear and there was an adjacent ridge we could see from here, you can actually pretty clearly see the patterns. They look like waves, and basically the oldest trees fall, and the youngest areas of forest are the areas basically right in front of the fir fall. I'll put up a picture one I took from Mount Washington if I can find it, or I'll edit in the clip of video where I'm pointing it out. But it's that is the pattern of succession up here, and it's about every 100 to 120 years you'll get a patch completely reforested. At least that's what I've heard, and that's at least true for the White Mountains. Oh, I would recognize this guy everywhere. Here he is, sheltered in a crack out of the cold. with the fuzzy coppery undersides. Goddamn Rhododendron groenlandicum. Love this plant. Very well adapted to the alpine lifestyle. As you can see, usually they're much bigger than this. I've only seen a couple of them. They're all growing really shrimpy. And I think that's because usually they would be in like a bog or with some standing water. But this is an extreme, like, I mean, this is a rhododendron species. You get all the way up into Greenland. This thing is tailor-made for the Arctic lifestyle. Quite nice. Alpine area. Keep your dags leashed. That's the Chicago. What do you call it? The dog got outside. I swear to God, I always wanted to do the Boston accent. I can't do the Boston accent. As you can see, winter and fall comes early up around these parts. These alpine lawns, as they're frequently called, are, you know, actually, believe it or not, biodiversity hotspots. As I was saying before, lots of disjunct Arctic species growing here. In some cases, purely endemic species. I don't know about Vermont, but in New Hampshire, a few of these alpine lawn species are truly endemic. I would expect to have seen Saudago leocarpa up here, or maybe Nabalus bootii, but whatever. We'll see. If anything, I got a picture of Minuartia groenlandicum, which I can actually come over here and just show you real quick. Not very charismatic at this time of the year, but nonetheless, a saxifrage looking, but it's not. I'm pretty sure this is the Minuartia. I got good pictures of it down there. I think that saxifrage blooms much earlier, and this tends to be fairly prolific throughout the year. Also, one of the more abundant, quote-unquote, rare alpine plants, Caryophyllaceae, which should come as no surprise, seeing as how Caryophyllaceae is one of the few families that you get flowering plants in Antarctica on. One of the two of them. The other one's a grass. So what does that tell you about grasses and about Caryophyllaceae? Anyway, we're going to go see if we can summit and then evaluate if we want to mess around up here a little bit. They got the cafe. It's just like Washington. They got the cafe. They got the toll road. You can take the stupid little. They don't have a train up this one, but they got the little tram. So we'll take an inventory of what's going on and then make a judgment call. We're up here up at the summit. Might break a little bit. That's one of the adjacent peaks we kind of traversed over. You can see down there for like a split second. We'll see what happens. This is your typical. This is nothing unusual, especially for this time of year. You could probably gain some superpowers from drinking the crispy mountain vernal pool water. On this side is actually Smuggler's Notch. So in an older video, I had hiked a mountain undisclosed on this side. Significantly shorter, probably about 1,000 feet shorter, and I had gotten pictures of this exact summit from there, which were quite nice. I'll put that in there. But this is the western half of Smuggler's Notch. This is Mount Mansfield. It's about 4,300 feet, and it's the tallest mountain in the wonderful Republic of Vermont. I'm going to keep that bit going. So, in any case, we're going to hang around up here for a second. We'll see if we really do want to go down to the hut. It's kind of a little bit out of the way, or if we want to just head back down, call it a day. Like I said, nothing much still going off at this time of the year, except for, the Minuartia groenlandica still holding strong. I think these will keep going basically until this gets iced over with rime ice. They'll pop up, In any case, we'll check back in more likely than not when we're on our way back down to the where we parked. But in any case, not bad up here. It must be here, but it must be. So it's a little hard to make out, but that body of water in the distance, you can see through the clouds. That's Lake Champlain right there, stretching all the way up into Canada. In fact, I'm pretty sure we could just see Quebec from here. Clouds rolled in. I had a better view. You could even start to see the Adirondacks over there in New York. But as you can see, the clouds have decided to roll back in. We're going to be hiking down this ridge over here, so maybe we'll get a chance to get some more views in a minute. Oh yeah, this little guy right here. This is coming up with the Rhododendron groenlandicum. This is either Vaccinium viticidea, Vaccinium uliginosum. I can never get it right. One of the really shrimpy alpine ericaceous plants. Real nice one. No berries on it or flowers. Long gone at this point, but always got to pull over stock because it likes coming up under rocks. Doesn't really seem to really want the full sun. Though again, this is pretty exposed compared to anything you'd see like in a forest. But that's a nice one. Maybe I can sort it out and figure out which one this is. I always seem to get it freaking wrong. Yeah, right in front of us here, after seemingly years of only coming across different highly variable forms of Nabalus trifoliolatus, we have a different species of Nabalus, one that looks like it took a little bit of frost damage. You'll note none of the leaves on this guy are compound or trifid or doing anything. Nice triangular leaves. There's another one up there. Nabalus is a highly plastic genus of plant. This is Nabalus altissimus, so this is the tall rattlesnake root. Look at those bifid stigmas there hanging out. Flowers are actually not as showy as the more common species to me, trifoliolatus, but I mean, just look at that. The sum of those parts are definitely pretty great. Oh, you get a yellow jacket or something trying to go in there and visit. That's nice. You see wasps pollinate a ton of stuff, or is that not even a wasp? Is that a hoverfly? Oh no, that was yellow jacket. In any case, Cichorioideae, so this is the same tribe as dandelions and chicory, all that stuff, but they look quite unusual. Really love the flowers, how they look on most members of this genus. It's a cool plant, really cool plant. Okay, this is actually a new one to me. This is a species of Impatiens, but not one I've seen before. This is Impatiens pallida. This is the yellow touch-me-not. I've seen plenty of light-colored Impatiens capensis, but this is a bit different. You can see there's your reproductive structure up in there. You get an amalgam of stamens, stigma. I forget the actual numbers going on here, but there's your functional business end of the thing right there. Obvious bilateral flower. There's your nectar spur down there. These have shorter nectar spurs than capensis. And yeah, Hummer pollinated. He's going to get his head covered in pollen up at the top there. He's going to fly off to another one. He's going to do his thing. Leaves are a bit bigger than on Impatiens capensis, and rather than, I guess they're both serrate. So anyway, here's Impatiens capensis. Here's the one that's much more common to me, the borderline weedy one. This is the spotted touch-me-not, orange touch-me-not, much longer nectar spur. Leaves are a bit smaller. Flowers are actually a bit smaller too. Very different coloration to the thing, and probably a few other differences I could get into if I was an expert in Balsaminaceae. But these are the two species growing right next to each other. You can see sometimes Impatiens capensis can trick you, but let's get that hook under. And I think pallida is always pointing straight down. See, this one's hooked under. That's a capensis. I wonder if they hybridize. I would imagine that they do. But yeah, you can see Impatiens capensis far outnumbering, although you get some pallida up there too in the corner. Got one or two more things I'll show you. This is kind of nice. I'd never seen this one. It prefers, if I had to hazard a guess, probably prefers the calcareous bedrock. Likes wet feet, but yeah, this one super common weed in urban areas. This one a little bit more obscure, not quite as often seen, not rare really by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not as far as I'm aware. Balsaminaceae, out in Europe I guess you guys call these balsam. Here we just call them by the genus name Impatiens, or touch-me-nots, or jewelweed is another one. So that's a cool one to finally get to see touch-me-not. Where does that come from? Well, none of the fruits on these are ripe, but should the fruits be ripe, they swell up, and if you sort of manipulate them, they pop open, explosive dehiscence, kind of like oxalis. You know, not a terribly rare trait for plants to have. Very effective at getting yourself moving around your environment, especially when you exist close to water like these frequently do. Anyway, I think we're going to go look at Chelone glabra, and then I'll point out Ochlumena acuminata because they're probably growing right next to each other. And I already got the Nabalus I wanted to see, so we'll check back in one more time probably. I forgot these were even here. You got some inky caps. I'm just doing a little bit of looking at them. They call them lawyer's wigs is one of the common names. These are shaggy inky caps. Corimus, God, I forget it. Of course I forget it. I'll put the scientific name there too. Again, mycology, not my immediate forte, you know? So these ones got kicked over before they fully opened. This one was fully opened. And you can see where they get that common inky cap. That's the spores coming off of it. And then this beautiful tubular inside. That stipe goes all the way up in there. right up to the top of the cap. That's fantastic looking. And of course you have the little vulva around the bottom there. I think I'm getting that term right. And then again, as the thing ages, this morning these were pristine white. But mushrooms are rather ephemeral. Got to remember, all a mushroom is just the so-called fruiting body of a much larger fungal organism under the ground. You know, it's fine. You can pick mushrooms. You can, whatever, you know what I mean? Just to check them out. Typically, diagnostic features are going to be on the inside, such as this one, with that black to white to pink on the inside of the cap. And I mean, just look how handsome. Look how handsome this guy is. These are really freaking cool. Apparently quite a common and widespread species, but not one I've ever taken note of before. But then again, mycology is not always my forte. Kind of hard to mistake. Lots of diagnostic factors in this guy. So that's pretty cool. That's really cool. Okay, pulled over here, and there's a couple interesting things. You still got this, now realizing that this Nabalus has been Nabalus altissimus, or altissimus right here. This guy smells absolutely delightful. This one's in better shape than one we saw before. Really just actually doing a really good job of sprucing up the environment here. Smells quite nice. There you go, right in front of you there. That's Champlain glabra, Plantaginaceae, distant relative of this nice mint down here. This is just clean and clear Mentha canadensis, although the wild mint you might be used to down in southern New England is probably Lycopus, a bugleweed species. Mentha canadensis, still great. Rip that thing off, it just smells strongly of mint. Similar to the Nabalus, that's some type of lactuca, maybe blue lettuce, maybe Canadian lettuce, some invasive buttercup. And then last but not least, you get your, lovely Impatiens pallida and Ochlomena acuminata, the best ones I've seen all day. The phylaries here, you don't even really need to look at them, but you should anyway. Just a good habit to have. Looks like the ligulate florets there only have the styles, which wouldn't be uncommon for an aster, but still interesting. You see, the ones on the edge only have like the two little things poking out, or that could just be pappus, I'm not sure. But looks swirled from the top, isn't alternate leaved. And how's that for a lovely end of journey and a journey shot? Some type of really weird gall here. Oh, my thing started. Oh, I don't know if I got cut off or what I did there, but anyway, I was just gonna say some sort of really weird gall on this Impatiens pallida. Hopefully it got my whole spiel on Ochlomena acuminata, because I'm not redoing that. It's starting to rain. So we're going to get out of here. That might actually end up being a better video than I thought. We'll see what happens.